Adam, I got to tell you, the whole idea of Josh McDaniels, I wonder, how do you ignore the transgressions of Denver? How do you ignore the fact of what he did to the Colts a few years ago? And truly, how do you end up where he's the top name on a search for your new head coach?
Because he's one of the best coaches in football, one of the best assistant coaches. And because when you call around and you speak to Bill Belichick and he gives him a ringing endorsement, and you call Chris Ballard, the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, and he gives him a ringing endorsement, let's keep in mind that the Indianapolis Colts hired him over men like Mike Vrabel. They chose Josh McDaniels for a reason. So you're going to hold it against him because he decided that he was uncomfortable with some of the things that he was feeling and believing in the Colts job after they agreed?
I'm going to raise my hand and say, Adam, if it makes me a bad person, it does. Yeah, I got a problem with that, especially when other people relocated their lives to take a job there. Guys left positions they had to do that. And more importantly, integrity matters to me, Adam, and he has integrity marks on that resume. I'd be concerned about it.
Again, I understand your point. I disagree. Again, your job as the Eagles is to come up with the best coach. And again, I'm not saying he's the best coach out there, but I know this. He's a really good coach. A really good coach.
And Adam joins us courtesy of our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now. It's America's top-rated sportsbook app. Adam, I believe with Dennis Allen coming in, they're reaching their 14th candidate. In your experience covering the league, have you ever seen such an expansive, wide net in the coaching search? And do you think they're done at 14?
Well, it happens. And what I would say is we're living in an era, and all these have not been Zoom. Like, I think that number may have been initially inflated because, again, if I were running a search, you'd be sitting down with everybody you could. Initially, it's Zoom. It's a couple of hours on Zoom. And so why would you not? I would interview 20 people. What would you do about the Eagles quarterback situation? What do you think is the best solution? I'd hear from as many people as I could, gather a consensus, educate myself, and make a decision. So, again, we're in a little bit of a different day and age and time where these interviews are done initially. I know they're in Florida doing them now in person, but initially a lot of them are done over Zoom. Why can't you do 4 or 5 in a day? Knock them all out. And I think that they obviously crammed them all. And the other part is that these teams hired their coaches and went a certain way. And the Eagles were a week behind everybody. Let's remember that, okay? They waited 1 week to fire Doug Peterson for whatever reason. And because they were late to fire him, they were late to the coaching search. And because they were late to the coaching search, they lost the opportunity to get some other people. Now, that doesn't mean that they would have hired them or that there's not other better people out there. But it just changes the dynamics of what's going on there, okay? So whereas Arthur Smith is one of your top candidates, he chooses Atlanta because they're too far down the road. Whereas Brandon Staley's in the playoffs and would be one of your top candidates, he takes the Chargers job before he can fly to Florida to go meet with the Eagles.
Adam, do you believe that when Doug Peterson went into that second end-of-season meeting, the one that led to his firing, do you believe he went into that meeting thinking, I'm out of here, I want to go? That the desired effect was, we need to break up?
Well, I don't know that he thought that. I think the Eagles probably felt it was going in that direction, would be my guess. And so, in that case, sooner is probably better. And probably that should have been taken care of the Tuesday after the season when they met, when they probably sensed that it might be going that way. But if you go back to the weekend of the final regular season, there were reports all over that Doug was safe, including ESPN, that he was expected to be safe. And that was like that Saturday. And then Sunday night happened in that game. And that game, I think, helped shift the dynamics a little bit. And the meetings didn't go very well that Tuesday. And then when people see, again, okay, so you have the meeting Tuesday, it doesn't go well. You know what? let's meet again tomorrow. Or let's just make the move now at that point. But they, I think out of respect to everybody, took some time so that everybody could make sure that they were doing the right thing, and then they made that move that Monday. Now, when they make that move that Monday, like I said, you're behind on Arthur Smith. You missed the opportunity to talk to Brandon Staley because they were in the playoffs. And so it just changes the dynamics of things. That's all.
Schefter, what are the biggest pros and the biggest cons of taking the head coaching job in Philadelphia?
It's a good question. What I would say to you, what you can sell to people is that, and I think this gets overlooked, the Eagles have won the division 9 of the last 20 years. Did you know that?
That's pretty good.
45%. That's very good, yeah.
They finished second 5 of those other years. So 14 out of 20 years, they're first or second. 9 of those 20, the last 2 decades, they finished first. So I think it starts at the top. I think Jeffrey Lurie is a great owner. A great owner. I think he's an owner you want to work for. I really do. And there are enough teams with enough owners that I would say to somebody, and have said to people, you might want to be very careful of that particular spot because of this.
Adam, the story keeps coming out about Eric Bieniemy, and I'm still surprised that the Eagles don't have anything apparently lined up with him. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, though, saying this is just an absolute indictment. Could the indictment be on NFL teams that this guy doesn't have a job yet? Could the indictment possibly be that he doesn't interview well? Because I've never heard this before. It seems like his resume is fairly strong, that he'd line up for at least an opportunity to be a head coach somewhere.
I'm going to tell you a few things. First of all, this notion of not interviewing well is the biggest bunch of BS that I know. Okay? I heard for years that Chris Ballard didn't interview well. And Chris Ballard is one of the finest men I know. And you're telling me that this guy that I've gotten to know over the last 5 or so years didn't interview well? Are you out of your mind? Okay? They're saying the same thing. I've known Eric Bieniemy since I covered Eric Bieniemy as a running back. He played running back for the University of Colorado. Eric Bieniemy got arrested in college. There are people that have incidents in college. Everybody can go back to their college days. Somebody wants to hold that against him now when he's a married man, when he's got children, when he's got a special needs child, when he's grown up, when he is now a far different man than the one who walked the path in Boulder, Colorado back in 1990. We're going to say, boy, he has an arrest in his record. He didn't learn from that. What a crock. Doesn't interview well? Baloney. It's about finding a leader. Eric Bieniemy is a leader. Okay, and if we go back and look over the last 4 years, the NFL has hired two black head coaches in 4 years. Okay, that's an institutional problem.
I'd feel better with the Eagles giving Eric Bieniemy a shot over somebody, at least a retread or otherwise. I would feel better with that.
I'm not going to argue with
because
you.
of Andy Reid's tutelage too. It's part of that, getting fruit off the Andy Reid tree.
And I think they've wanted to kind of move away from that in this round of hiring.
Okay.
And again, I would say sometimes we get too caught up in that. Like Houston can't, I don't think, go hire a New England head coach as great as I think Josh McDaniels is. And by the way, when I said, I don't know if he's the best coach, I can't speak to what kind of coach Aaron Glenn would be, although I've heard unbelievable things about Aaron Glenn, right? I just know that Josh McDaniels, period, is one of the best coaches out there. And so, and integrity, I happen to know him a little bit, and I think he's got a lot of integrity.
Yeah, Adam, are the Eagles hiring one head coach, or are they hiring a head coach, a defensive coordinator, and an offensive coordinator all at once? In other words, is the head coach bringing their staff, or are they open to people outside of?
Yeah, well, no. When you hire a coach, when he's going through the interview, when they sit down with these guys, if they're serious about any one of them, and even times when they're not, And you say to the candidate every time, who do you envision bringing along? And there are coaches that are aligned with other coaches. There are ideas that coaches who are interviewing have of candidates. But then a lot of times, I've seen this happen before where a coach will interview and say, I'm bringing Bob Cooney as my offensive coordinator. The guy gets the job, and Bob Cooney took the job in Miami. You said Bob Cooney was coming. Well, he told me he was coming. Like that happens all the time. So you can lay out ideas and thoughts of guys that you plan to bring, but that's what they are. They're plans, and plans change. So sometimes they hold up, but teams don't hire coaches without having an idea of who would be on their staff. When the Jets hired Robert Saleh, they knew that he would be bringing Mike LaFleur as his offensive coordinator. They knew that would happen. So, again, there's a foundational idea, and sometimes it doesn't hold up exactly as planned and discussed, but there's a general thought process to that, and usually it's fairly close to that.
Adam, before we let you go, Andrew, one of our listeners, has DM'd me, and he says, I've always had a question I wanted to ask Adam Schefter, and it's really odd. Can you take this question? He says Adam Schefter would be the guy, I bet, that doesn't sit still while he's watching games. He probably walks around the house, walks to the kitchen, gets something if he's not working, gets something out of the fridge, walks back to the couch, then walks around again, stands up during a critical drive. Are you a sit down and watch a game person when you're just being a fan? Or are you the guy who's always walking around? That's what he pictures you as.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question, Andrew. And I would say that I think he's off. I'm a sit down in my spot guy, but I will also say that inevitably, while I'm watching the game, I'm like, in other words, on Sunday I'm going back and forth in the final minutes of the Bucs Saints. I'm Dan Campbell and Terry Fontenot and some other things. So as you've gotten older, as I've gotten older, and as you become more and more conscientious, I find that my work is often bleeding into the game. And also at times, if I'm going to be honest, sometimes like on Sunday during the early game, I had Luka Doncic going up against the Bulls early in my fantasy basketball game.
My man.
There you go.
I'm being honest.
So you got a little distracted. That's fine.
And then they canceled the Sixers-Grizzlies game, which cost me, or Sixers, who'd they play?
It was Oklahoma
City, yeah.
That pissed me off, okay? I lost 3 games. Three guys. I lost Shake that day, and I picked up Isaiah Roby on waivers that morning to play him, and I have Darius Baisley. I lost 3 games. I lost 2 categories that night because I lost 3 games. I lost by 1 point. I lost by a .001 field. Like that.
See?
That was going on, okay? So when that happened, Andrew, I got up off my couch and was pissed off, okay?
There is passion. That's Adam Schefter. Great passion every single week with us. Adam, have a great championship weekend.
Yeah, and I just want to officially welcome back Seth Curry. I hope he's doing well. He could go for 6 3-pointers tonight. And I want to thank Shake Milton for all he did for my fantasy team last week in the 2 games that he returned from COVID protocols. Did a great job. I needed a little bit more. That's not his fault that they canceled the game. I'm still bitter about it.
We can tell.
Thanks, Adam. Take
Thanks,
care,
Shefty.
buddy.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Adam.